I always think this loyalty is like a tiring virtue. Agatha Christie. Every murderer is probably somebody's old friend. What good is money if it can't buy happiness? An antique collector is the best husband, because the older his wife, the more he loves her. Agatha Christie. An archaeologist is the best husband, because the older his wife, the more he loves her. Agatha Christie. Good advice is always certain to be ignored, but that's no reason not to give it. Agatha Christie. Cruelty is sometimes not innate, but is caused by imagination which is slow to ripen. A childish person is the scariest person in the world. Agatha Christie. One of the luckiest things that can happen to you in life is having a happy childhood. Agatha Christie. Don't remember the past mistakes. No matter how much we cry, we can't bring it back. Agatha Christie. Rushing to explain is always a sign of weakness. Agatha Christie. Everything has to be taken into account. If the facts don't match the theory, let the theory go. Agatha Christie. An archaeologist is the best husband to get a woman, the older wife, the greater interest in her husband. Agatha Christie. No, my son, there you are mistaken. Killing is easy as long as no one suspects us. And the culprit himself is the least suspect. Agatha Christie. But of course for everything you love you have to pay some price. Agatha Christie. Anyone who fantasizes about 6 things that really don't make sense before he eats breakfast will be able to understand these things easily. Agatha Christie. I think nothing is more interesting in this world than having children who belong to you, but mysteriously are foreigners. Agatha Christie. Any woman can cheat a man if he wants and if the man falls in love with him. Agatha Christie. The impossible is impossible, therefore the impossible must be possible despite appearances. Agatha Christie. The impossible is impossible, therefore the impossible must be possible despite appearances. Agatha Christie. A person does not recognize the very important moments in his life until it is too late. Agatha Christie. The good thing about an island is that once you get there you can't go anywhere else. You come to the end of it all. Agatha Christie. It's probably a good thing, if people can't tell what's going to happen. Agatha Christie. I like life. I was sometimes very wild, desperate, very suffering, tormented by sadness, but through all that I still know for sure that life is a great thing. Agatha Christie. I'm not an official detective and I'm not a famous private detective based on Baker Street, or anything like that. Agatha Christie. Good advice is often overlooked, but there's no reason not to give it. Agatha Christie. Does the real thing ever have the perfection of a stage show? Agatha Christie. Words for him have become a way of obscuring facts, not expressing them. Agatha Christie. Evil is not something superhuman, it's something less than human. Agatha Christie. I'm not deceiving you, mon ami. At best, I allow you to deceive yourself. Agatha Christie. The best time for planning a book is while you're doing the dishes. But it is incredible how often things force one to do the thing one would like to do. Never do anything yourself, where other people can do it for you. Agatha Christie. When it comes to large sums of money, it is advisable not to trust anyone. Agatha Christie. At my time of life, one knows that the worst is usually true. It is ridiculous to set a detective story in New York City. New York City is itself a detective story. There is something magical about an island. Even the word island itself has a fantastic meaning. You are separated from the world. An island is a world unto itself. Maybe a world to which you will never return. Agatha Christie. How true it is to say that humans are forced to create jobs to avoid the stress of having to think. Agatha Christie. If one sticks to his principles, he will hardly see anyone. Agatha Christie.
If one sticks to his principles, he will hardly see anyone. Agatha Christie.
The character of the victim has always been related to his murder. Agatha Christie. The truth, however ugly it may be, is always strange and beautiful to the seeker after it. Agatha Christie. The best husband profession for women is archaeology. Because the older the woman, the husband will be more attracted to her. Agatha Christie. I've always believed in writing without collaborators, because where two people write the same book, each believes he or she gets all the worries and only half of the royalties. Agatha Christie. An archaeologist is the best husband a woman can get. The older the woman, the more attracted he is to her. Agatha Christie. I don't think need is the mother of invention. Invention, I think, springs directly from laziness, perhaps also from laziness. To save yourself. Agatha Christie.